afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So for this video, as you can probably guess by the title, we're going to talk to Mike a little bit about how we do things here at Walton Motorsport. For anyone who doesn't know, which is probably a minimum amount of people actually watching this, so Mike is Michael Walton, hence Walton Motorsport. So I guess we start with, where are you from?
I grew up in High Wycombe and I'm still here. Never left the hometown.
That's High Wycombe in the UK. For anyone who's not from the UK, we are about 3 miles out of the town centre. Is that right?
Like that.
Yeah, so we're kind of halfway between London and Oxford. So I should have said earlier, some of these questions are what we get asked a lot when people are buying expensive exhaust manifolds and things. Sometimes I like to know how they are made, why they should buy R1, for example, rather than just, how do they know we haven't just made it in a shed with no idea of what we're doing, really? And it's a very valid question. So I guess one of the first questions it'd be good to talk about is, how long have you been fabricating for?
I've been fabricating since I was 18 years old. 18 years old. I think I started when I was 17, actually.
It's about 12, 13 years
13
currently.
years, yeah.
How did you get into it?
I kind of fell into the job, actually. So I did a motorsport engineering BTEC diploma at Bicester Engineering College.
Is that still going now?
Yeah, it's still there. I don't know if any of the teachers are still there. I highly doubt it. Some time ago now.
Might even be watching this.
Might even be watching this. That'd be nice. So I did my first year there, whilst I was still working at bike shop, actually with you, as it turns out. I left the bike shop, did my engineering course, and during the second half of my second year, so final year, I applied for an apprenticeship at a local company called Primary Designs, who are based in Tame.
So, I don't know why I've even asked you this. When you did your qualification, did they teach you to weld there?
Wow. They did, to a certain extent. To as I suppose, as best as you can get from a college course like that, yes, they did teach us how to weld. Yeah. But most of it, as soon as I got a job at Primary Designs, I was immediately told to forget everything that I'd learnt there. And they started me all over again.
So a lot of people probably haven't heard of Primary Designs. You're probably better at exactly what they do.
So Primary Designs are an exhaust manufacturing company. They probably do other stuff as well now. But when I first started, they were doing just purely exhaust systems, ranging from, when I just started, it was just about Red Bull. And then before that, they'd done Jaguar, Formula One. I didn't immediately start on Formula One, as you can imagine.
Making tea for the people.
Yeah, so I was making tea for the people who were working on Formula One. I started, my first exhaust manifold I ever made was for a Mark 1 Ford RS. Ford Focus RS, sorry.
Mark 1 Focus.
Mark 1 Focus RS, that's it, yeah. And I made quite a few of those before I was allowed to make anything else. And then, lots of donkey work. I managed to slowly show my skills to my bosses, and managed to work my way up through the company. I moved from that onto making custom exhausts for cars that came in. This was still predominantly Fords, so I did some RS200 exhausts, a few bits and pieces like that, and then just basically progressed all the way through till I eventually was working on Formula One exhaust systems. Progressed all the way to the end of that. I was making my actual specific job making Formula One exhaust was collectors and tailpipes. And as you can imagine, there was, if you know a bit about the history of Formula One, it went all through the blown diffuser.
So what period is this? This is 2000.
Oh God, I can't remember the exact date.
Must be
some kind of a blur.
It's probably
2012, 2015.
Yeah. Must be about 2010 onwards, isn't it?
Yeah, 2010 onwards.
And obviously F1 stuff's always quite interesting. So how long does it take to make? You made the collector.
So when we were making it, it was still normally aspirated. So I did all the normally aspirated V8 when Sebastian Vettel was ruling supreme, which I put solely down to the fact that I was personally making his exhaust systems. No, I'm joking.
How long does it take to make Sebastian Vettel's collector?
So we had to make 2 a week plus tailpipes, and it all kind of ranged. But roughly, we're making 2 collectors a week.
So making 2 collectors a week. How long does it take to make our typical collector here?
Depending on the format, but like a V-band collector with a wastegate port takes 4 to 5 hours. So the complexity is slightly different when you're making a Formula One.
But then when we do more high level stuff, like some of the RS200 manifolds, those collectors, which they're made from Inconel 625, which that's the same. Is that same grade of Inconel on the F1 stuff, or is it slightly?
It ranged. There were some 625 in there, but 718 and all sorts of other bits.
So very similar material.
Yes.
And they take quite a lot longer than our typical turbo collector, don't they?
Yeah.
And part of that's because we do the turbo collectors so much. We have, as you can see on our web store, pre-cut legs, everything to make that process as fast as possible, because they are the same every time, more or less.
As efficient and as repeatable as possible. That's what
I guess those F1 collectors are probably different quite often, weren't they?
Yeah, almost every other week was a design review, and we had to make something different almost every time. It's great.
And then I guess from what I don't know how much of this we can actually say specifically, but there was other should we say high-end vehicles you worked on between F1 or
Yes, there was. So I personally worked on Koenigsegg Agera project. I designed the pipe routing. It's quite simple. Of the exhaust manifold, just there to there. I just got given some endpoints and was told to come up with a design for the Koenigsegg Agera and Agera R. I believe they continued with that design all the way through the processes. I also made all of their rear silencers, most of their rear silencers, should I say, but that we didn't have any involvement in the design process of that. That was just purely assembly.
Okay, so that kind of gives a bit of insight into the skill set that's developed, and also Alex, who also works in our workshop building manifolds. He also came from.
So he also originated from primary designs. He did a similar course to me at Bicester Motorsport College. He did a few years at primary designs, and then he moved on to and came and worked with us when I started up this business.
He thought, no, I don't want to get into that F1 stuff. I want to work on Toyota 2JZ.
Yes, that's it. The mighty 2JZ.
Nissan RB engines and all other manner of things that we end up.
It's much more fun, I promise you.
So this is probably a bit difficult question, but in the general sort of day-to-day fabrication or progressing through fabrication, what's kind of like the biggest challenges? What's the most difficult aspect, do you find? Is it having to, for example, work out how something goes together? Do you find that difficult?
So the most difficult part in designing, for instance, an exhaust manifold that we're going to repeatedly make and sell, is making a part that fits the car in the first place, fits repeatedly, so you can continuously make the same product over and over again, and you're 100% sure that that part will fit. Being able to make it efficiently, so you've got to obviously be able to make it quick enough to actually make some money at it, otherwise there's no point in doing it at all. And making it easy for the customer to work with. So one of our main points, I know some people are probably going to argue with this if they fitted an N54 kit, but one of our strongest points is that anyone can fit one of our exhaust manifolds. It should literally be as easy as putting it in the engine bay and bolting it up. I've had experience before I started making my own manifolds of fitting other people's, and the stress and just inability to actually directly fit the part was massively off-putting. So I thought that there would be a way that we could do this so that anyone and everyone could do it, making it easier for them to fit, and I believe that we have achieved that.
I remember when I first started here, I think it was probably one of the first 3 jobs we had in. There was I think it was an R33 Skyline with an exhaust manifold on it, and we had to, I can't remember how we did that. I think we had to get a mechanic to come and take the engine, lift the engine out of the engine bay to physically remove the exhaust manifold, because it was, to be honest, to look at it in a picture, you probably wouldn't have said it was that big of a manifold, but when you compared it to, put it next to our design, it was probably twice the size, wasn't it? And it did not physically come off of the head studs because it hit the turret before. I quickly learned that there is a lot more to making these things, and also getting to the bolts. I've had the pleasure or displeasure of removing the exhaust manifold from the S13 a few times, and it is pretty straightforward to get to the bolts, and you can definitely see that in our pipe designs. And generally, if it's difficult, there is a reason for it. Generally around power, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, there's always got to be a compromise somewhere. You could make a manifold that literally was the easiest thing in the world to fit, but wouldn't flow at all. So you have to have a compromise between performance and the ability to fit. I believe we don't have to compromise too much on performance with our design, almost none at all. The changes that we've made to allow it to make it easy to fit have been able to maintain the performance, but also make it easier, very easy for you to install said parts.
You were going to say there's none, but what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in fabrication?
Oh, I've made
one of the biggest mistakes.
I've made several mistakes in fabrication. Back when I worked at Primary Designs, I ruined 3 exhaust manifolds. They were actual Vauxhall VXR manifolds, I believe they were. And when I was skimming the head flange, I was very inexperienced at the time, and I put far too much weight on one side of the flange, and I wrecked 3 exhaust manifolds by cheese wedging the manifold flange. As you can imagine, my boss wasn't very happy with me at that. I've also ruined one of those Formula One collectors that I was making for years. Too much penetration on that one. If you know what that is, that's how much metal passes through. So if you're welding 2 parts together, you're meant to melt the whole thing together so that the pipe is welded all the way around, and you can see the weld on the inside as well. What I've actually done is gone slightly too hot. I mean, we're talking working with materials that's 0.5 mil thick here, so it's a lot easier to do than you would imagine. Put too much heat into this collector, and the weld sunk right down, and ruined it. That was a bad day as well. I got to keep that collector. They sent it home with me when I left the job, just to remind me not to make that sort of mistake again.
Slightly more probably positive question for you is favourite project you've been involved with, either through Walton Motorsport or outside of that personally, or with primary designs?
It's difficult to say a singular favourite project.
It must be pretty cool to see cars winning with things that you've made on them.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, when we designed Matt Carter, his exhaust manifold that he still has on his car now, was the very first. It's a 1JZ head, VVTi head manifold, and that's quite rewarding for him to bolt that on the car and then later on go win that season of racing without any issues with the parts that we'd made, especially as it was the first one that we'd designed. That was a pretty exciting project. Obviously, it's fantastic pub talk when we were making the Formula One parts to say, yeah, well, won that weekend, made that exhaust idea. So there's all those sorts of bits and pieces are very rewarding. But even every manifold that we make, that it goes out and we get quite a lot of people sending messages and feedback for our parts, and it's very rare that you get anything other than they're very happy with it, and that really is what it's all about. It just makes the feeling you get when someone messages you and tells you that you've done a good job and you're really happy. That is words can't describe.
Can we just add as well, not enough if you send pictures of them back to us fitted, or send sound clips or video clips back.
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be great.
We love to see that stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of the cars we get in the workshop don't work when they come in and don't work when they leave. So we never get to hear them or see them in action. We make loads and loads of manifolds and send them out. I mean, these are all going on cool projects because it's the kind of product that it is. And we probably see 10% of them, if that, don't we? Yeah. Send us pictures of them fitted, and we love to see that sort of stuff. A little bit more personal now. Favourite car you've owned?
Oh no, that's too hard. They're all very good in different ways. I think my favourite car I ever owned, just because of my age at the time that I bought it, was my red E36 M3 convertible, and it was the hairdresser. It had beige interior, beige dashboard, beige carpets and everything, and I bought that car when I was 21, and I thought I was the daddy. I thought it was the best thing in the entire world. The car was rotten. It was horrible. It was knackered. It was the gearbox, literally everything. I broke everything on it. But I think it was probably my favourite, just purely from the feeling of when I initially bought that car. And then I sold it a few years later, in a not a very good way, shall we say.
I'm quite surprised you didn't say this.
Oh, I love this car as well, but I didn't get to drive it every day. There's something about a car that you get to drive every day. You get really into the feel of it. This is an absolute animal of a thing, and it can be very rewarding, and it can also be very distressing at times when things go wrong. But I think for happy memories, I'm going to have to go with the M3.
Worst car you've owned? And this doesn't count.
Worst? It's not really fair, that question, because my first...
Because they're all the worst.
My first car I ever owned I hated was a 1.1 Ford Fiesta Mark III LX in silver, and it was absolutely dreadful. Hated it. I wrote it off after 2 weeks. Not because I hated it, but just because I was very good at driving.
Luckily.
But then I've also got things like my current truck, that I have a Land Cruiser that's sat out in the yard now, which I bought in December and is now completely knackered. Mainly due to my fault, I believe, but punishing it a bit too much. But there's that. What else is there? I'm sure there was some other terrible cars. I had an automatic Mercedes 190E.
We've got a picture we can insert that.
That was a hideous car. It was terrible. It was so rotten, and I crashed it so many times in the snow and all sorts of stuff. There is a picture of that, definitely. Other terrible cars.
You have a pretty poor car history, really.
Shocking cars. Up until recently, I was dailying an E46 320D compact, which doors didn't lock. 250,000 miles on the clock. Just smoke pouring out of the back of it. Doors don't lock. Anything like that. Rust everywhere. Yeah. So I've owned some pretty terrible cars.
Coolest event you've been involved in through, I guess, through your fabrication aspect? You kind of led into that.
Through the fabrication aspect?
Well, through like Walton Motorsport or something related around work or...
As in driving or...?
Well, yeah, could be driving.
At Missouri, Drift Missouris, definitely, all day long. They've got to be the most exciting, most unbelievable events that you can go to and have the best time of your life driving.
UK versions of that, because we know they're all over the world now.
All over the world, but the UK Drift Missouris are far and beyond the very best driving festival I've ever been to in my entire life. They are absolutely incredible fun.
And what happened to the last one?
I blew the car up again.
So if you've seen any of our earlier videos where the T-side video with the prop shaft breaking.
Oh yes.
That happened again.
Yeah, again and again and again. And the most recent one was at the last Drift Missouri of 2019. Good times.
That last time. Oh no, the dyno, didn't it? The fresh air anti-lag video.
Yes.
Which was here as well. That's pretty much it. Is there anything you want to add about what we do, or?
Only that we don't just make our off-the-shelf exhaust manifolds here. If there's a project that you need an exhaust part for, and you can't get it anywhere, and you would like someone with quite good experience and lots of background knowledge to point you in the direction or make the parts for you, we are here. There's at the end of the phone, there's always Andrew, and he will always be helpful and guide you through. And if he doesn't know it, he'll come and ask me, and if I don't know it, then
it doesn't exist.
I don't know.
Yeah, so we do so we've only went for off-the-shelf manifolds. We do quite a lot of custom stuff as well. We are always looking to develop new manifolds and that kind of thing, which is usually common conversions and common engine setups, that sort of thing that we don't do. We do stuff for motorsport, so we do done some World Rallycross stuff. We've done some hill climb bits and bobs. Unfortunately, not everything we do we can show you
or discuss.
And if that suits you, then that's absolutely fine. We can do that for you as well. It's important to tell us that before, though.
Yes, we're going to start filming it and putting it online, and someone goes, "Why are you doing that?"
So we have a cool secret project. We'd love to be involved with it. We've already done one this year. It's coming. You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
One or two. Which one?
I can't
tell you.
You'll see it soon enough.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Lovely.
See you soon.